Some people go to contracting and consulting for the money.
Yeah.
For me, it was the ability of variety and change and learning and growth mindset. I'm a strong believer that if you look for things where you can learn and grow, all that will come.
It follows.
It will follow you.
100%.
What I realized is high-performing teams, people you work with, all of that is really important.
Yeah.
And when I left Visa, the people I really enjoyed working with, the leaders that I looked up to at the time, etc., were all moving on to pastures new, right?
Gotcha.
So I thought it's now or never.
In this episode, we speak to Alpesh Manji. Alpesh has got a fascinating career, ranging from taking his student loan and investing it while at university, through to his time at TikTok when he was nominated to be top of the talks.
Contracting led me to work for Maersk, a transport and logistics company, the biggest in the world, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that I would ever end up from payments in there? Yeah, not what I expected.
The first thing I'd like to do in this next block of episodes that we're doing is actually, rather than start with school, is just if you could give me an overview of who you work for, what your title is, and what that job actually means. What do you do?
Yeah, so look, currently I work for Barclaycard Payments in the merchant acquiring business. My job title, official job title, is head of gateway or director of gateway, etc. It's part of the global transaction bank in Barclays.
Yeah.
I've been there for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And what is that role? Ultimately, I'm a head of product. I make sure that everyday consumers like you and me can go into small businesses or large corporates and make payments online, in-store, or omni-channel.
Jeez. Okay. So you're head of gateway. What is a gateway? If we take it right back to something that our families would understand that aren't in the industry, what is a gateway?
The best way I describe it is, say you're shopping online, right? You go through your consumer experience. I don't know, say you're on a really snazzy retailer, you're buying your amazing £300 jacket, you got to that checkout page. That ultimately is the physical view of a gateway, and all it's doing is being able to capture your capture your information, throw up the ways you want to pay, so the different types of card payments, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, or digital wallets, or all these new alternative payments like a Klarna, etc., and able to capture it, authenticate it, make sure that you pass that information on, do fraud checks, optimization checks, etc. on it, and then basically allow you to purchase that good, purchase the goods. And the same way when you go in store, you typing in your stuff into the the payment machine. It's exactly that. It's passing your information through to securely be able to make payments in the channel of your choice.
So it's literally a gateway.
Yeah, it's a routing network mechanism.
Yeah, gotcha.
Thing,
yeah, fine. So from a scale perspective, so being the head of gateway, if it's the gateway to everything that Barclaycard does, that's a big job.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think the gateway is one part of the merchant acquiring business, and we have a number of gateways, right? We have proprietary, white label, PSP partner gateways, etc. So it's quite an exciting role to be in. There's a lot of evolution and changes. I think what's really exciting to me about it is not necessarily the scale or how big it is. It's more the fact that you are the face of payments to a consumer, or for the merchants, you're the one that's driving that payment experience alongside their experiences that they're driving for consumers.
Oh yeah, of course.
I find that quite exciing.
Yeah, that's. Do you know what? Having worked in e-commerce as long as I did, I loved it because you could really feel and see it. How much work do you do with the retailers?
The merchants are our customers. We're a B2B business, right? So as a product team, there is no product if you don't understand the needs of your customers. So making sure that you're building the right use cases or the needs that our customers want, that's like the heart and soul of product, right? Because you're not going to address needs, you're not going to then be able to commercialize, and also they're not going to be able to hit the consumer experiences they want.
Of course. Love it. So I shouldn't imagine that you planned when you were younger to be the head of Gateway Barclaycard. So we go all the way back to the start.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school and did you enjoy it?
School is important. Well, school is very important. It's interesting in my life. I'll talk to you a little bit about school and then I'll take you back even further.
Please.
Before I was even a thing, right?
We can go way
important.
back. We can go way back.
I think it's important to understand this because it shaped how I am and what I think about and how I think about things today.
Yeah.
So I come from, my background, I'm Indian by heritage.
Yeah.
Where my dad and mum were both born in an area called Kutch in Gujarat.
Whereabouts is that in India?
That's never eat shredded wheat, northwest. Right?
That's what I did when I moved to Wilton Junction.
So it's northwest, and it's a big. The part of Gujarat I'm from is a very dry, deserty area, but it's got a big farming kind of agricultural area there. So both my parents are from a farming background, but my mum and family moved over to Uganda in the 70s, etc. And my dad was still, this is before they were married. My mum and dad got an arranged marriage, but we'll come to that in a second.
Okay.
When mum and dad, my granddad from my mum's side of the family absolutely had an amazing life in Uganda. I hear stories about his old friends that are still alive saying your granddad used to walk around with suitcases of money to pay his workers, etc. He was doing really well. And then in the 70s, the Idi Amin thing happened where all kind of Asians got kicked out of Uganda, etc. And they had to start all over again. So it's like having an amazing lifestyle to going into a shared household with extended family, not far from Wilson Junction, down in Kensal Green.
Yeah.
And you're talking
So how did they
about,
ended up in the UK? How?
Because I think my granddad had the rights to stay in the UK. So
as part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
fine.
So that's how they kind of ended up there.
Wow.
And eventually they settled. And so my mum, being one of many children, she wanted to go to school, but my granddad prioritised the boys over the girls, so she had to go and work. That was a cultural thing. Wow. You hear a lot about it back in the days in India, where boys are prioritised to be the head of the house, etc., and to continue the legacy, etc. So she had to go and work in a factory, and that's what she did her whole career. But she then eventually got married. My dad and her settled down. They then bought a house in Kensal Green down the road from the house that they stayed in. And, she worked bloody hard.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, she used to work in a factory that used to make like electrical sockets that you plug things into and components. Yeah. She'd do that during the day and she'll bring it home in the evening. They'll deliver it and she'll do more of it at home. They'll collect the bags and what that meant was, Liam, that every 6 weeks, like everybody else, I got to go on those big holidays. I got to do that. And for me, my brother and sister, she's the driving force for change for us in our household. Because my dad, albeit he went to work and he worked hard, there was this drive my mum had that was different. She wanted to try things, challenge herself, go on holidays, like explore and take the opportunity that she's actually living in the UK, not in a farming land in India. So she made the most of it. So
isn't it fascinating how much a generation away from a generation from you, that the way that they were doing their thing has impacted the way that you do your thing?
It's
That's
amazing.
super special. And
so then we bring it back to school, right?
Yeah, go.
So I lived in Kensal Green. I went to a Church of England school, where Hindu by heritage. My parents are Hindus. That was weird. That was weird, right? Like,
what are you talking about?
So the strange thing is, it was normal. People talk about it was weird in the sense of Monday to Friday I'll be singing hymns like everybody. I have my hymn book. I've wrapped it up with wallpaper like everybody does. I know. I celebrate Christmas, Easter, harvest. I did the full works. I used to go to church. The vicar lived on my road. Yeah. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I went to temple. and on Sundays I went to
Wow.
Gujarati school. I learnt my kind of mother tongue, etc. We always spoke it, but I learnt how to write,
Yeah.
etc. So look, that was choices made, not because my mum and dad thought it was the right thing to do. They didn't have a clue, right? They're not educated.
Yeah.
It was just the school that was closest to the house, easiest one to drop and pick you up on.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's what we did. That's where I started off. That was my primary education. And then look, my parents were in a position to choose where I go to secondary. So you
Okay.
kind of just followed the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a follow the crowd thing that's quite, you'll find out later in my career where I kind of realized that following the crowd wasn't working for me. So I went to just a normal state secondary school, enjoyed it. I was really good. I was generally a good student.
You
I didn't
academic,
really-
would you say?
I was academic,
Yeah.
but not because I enjoyed it. I have this thing where I'm able to just do things and pass them, but not necessarily because I enjoy it. But what I did enjoy was all the creative subjects,
Okay.
like but science isn't creative, but I
No,
like
but I
the
know what you mean.
experimental side of things. My design, technology, arts, I was amazing.
Do you think that's you? Because you got siblings, right?
Yeah,
Were your siblings the same?
exactly the
Do
same.
you think that comes from like when you talk about this heritage that you've taken? Do you think it comes from that, like wanting to like create and explore? Do you think
No,
it comes from that?
It's a hard one. My brother was my sister and me are closer in age. There's a year's gap between us. My brother, there's about 7 years age gap between me and my brother. He was the naughty one. He's the one where, like, my parents will end up in school.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to study. And I think my parents were forcing him to study. And if he rebelled and made some choices, etc. And then in the end, he's ended up in the plumbing industry, etc. And he's doing really well for himself. I look upon that and I see what he'd done, and I just made the choices that I think were right for me. There wasn't really any role models for me because nobody had been to university at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just making the choices and just followed the crowd, I'd say.
So you follow the crowd, but like there's clearly some preference developing about like what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like did you as you get through to secondary and stuff, did you ever like have a rough idea of what life beyond school might be?
No, didn't. Like, actually, life beyond school would have been, in my mum and dad's eyes, would have been you work in computers, or you're a doctor, or you're a scientist, or something like that. Because in their eyes, like, doing something like you could be a podcast producer for the rest of your life and earn money, etc. That wouldn't have been a concept in their eyes, because that wouldn't have been seen a job.
Yeah.
So for me, that exploration wasn't there yet. I didn't feel it. But at secondary school, I had my first taste of what life would be like, right? So you get to do those 2 weeks work experience. And there was a teacher that happened to have a friend that worked at Nokia. And back then, Nokia was like the place to,
of course.
like,
I heard those ringtones.
3210 and the changing faces and stuff. So she hooked us up a role to go and do 2 weeks with the computer-aided design team over there.
Wow.
And in 2 weeks, you're not going to really learn much, but you got to experience that. Actually, there was a guy I remember, his full-time job I met was just to go around the world to see what the latest trends were so that they can be translated onto the phones in designs.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you get paid for that.
Amazing.
So that gave me an idea. But then I would never have thought that my background could ever even get into that, right?
But by background, what do you mean?
So when I say about role models, like growing up, I see, if you saw the workplaces, it was generally like white males, etc. And I think for me, there wasn't, like, I couldn't see role models or figures in the crowd that actually said that person looks like me, talks like me. He's got a little bit of something that I've experienced. Yeah. So I think that gave me kind of like a little bit of like, maybe I'm always going to stay in this sort of level of career, but I'm still early on in my career and my thinking then, not even career. I was just what I thought was the
It was
world of
possible
work.
for you as well. Yeah, exactly. So you see, you go to Nokia, and by the way, seeing the guy that goes around the world just trends like from the careers that you suggested that your parents say, like the stable careers that you can go into. That must have been a massively eye-opening thing that like actually there are other things that I could do with my time after school. Do you reckon then when you went back into school you thought about what might come next differently?
I did. I think what that helped me do is make choices in probably the types of A levels that I did.
Yeah, fine.
I knew that I didn't want to do further maths at university. I didn't want to do really technical science subjects, etc. So I decided, look, I'm going to pick subjects that I just enjoy doing. So I focused on design and technology. I focused on information, ICT.
IT. Yeah, that's all there was then.
And then I focused on, and then there was you need to pick another subject. I picked sociology. I thought, do you know what?
Get you a grade.
Yeah. So I did it. And I didn't think twice. I didn't really enjoy it. I moved to a different kind of sixth form college.
Yeah.
I just did it. Like I went to it. A few of my friends went there.
Yeah.
One of my best friends that I've grown up with since I've been in nursery was going there. So I followed the crowd and I went. Yeah. Then it came to university.
Was that always a natural choice to go to uni?
There wasn't, like I said, like at the time, if I look at my career and I look back, had I made different choices, of course, there's so much more on offer. Apprenticeship schemes, just different ways of working or getting exposure or growing your career or growing your knowledge. That wasn't available to me. So again, follow the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So we go to university because that's what everybody was doing.
So you're thinking about whether to go to uni or not. How did you make the decision about whether to go?
You say you're thinking about it. I don't think
so true.
I didn't
go with
think.
the flow.
I put an application in. Again, I didn't think too much about it. Did I care if I went away for uni or was close to home? I didn't really care. I just picked a uni where a couple of my friends. So I ended up at Brunel in West London. It worked, right? Because I had a part-time job in Staples, the office superstore.
Really?
That was the best time ever. And you know what? I purposely didn't want to take a student loan out. Well, actually, I did. I took a student loan out and I invested it and I made some money.
Did you? I love that.
And then I paid it back. But that's all good. But I worked. I think it's the work ethic about my mum. And what I talked about is I wanted to just pay for my fees. I didn't want to take a loan out. I wanted to come out of this with no debt. So I just worked the additional hours. And for some reason, Staples used to be open till midnight. So it worked for me because I was able to go to my lectures, go and do a shift in the evening and still go out into town with my friends and repeat and work on the weekends. So I loved it. And some of my friends from Staples, I'm still friends with them till now. Like we went to uni together, etc. So that was good.
So you came out of uni with a degree in what?
So I talked about my design like aspirations to do creative subjects, and I did information systems.
Information systems. Do you reckon you picked information systems because you thought about what that might do for your career? Was it a career-focused choice or not? No.
So I had a choice of, I think it was a bit of nervousness of doing something different or coming out of the crowd. So I remember applying for a number of roles. And at one uni, I looked at aerospace management. I thought, cool, I love aeroplanes, I love travel. Another one, still at Brunel, I looked at industrial design. And then for some reason, I settled on information systems. And I assume it was, I can't remember all of the reasons why, but it was probably because a few of my friends were in the same course. It would have been easier to just have a few friends around you, etc. I was still probably not coming out of my comfort zone at the time.
So then when because what you haven't done in your career, as far as I can see, past this point, is follow a crowd. Like you've carved the path for yourself, and it's evident in what you're doing today and the roles that you've held. So up until this point where you've left university, apart from the Staples thing, everything else has been pretty normal. Because most kids follow the crowd. They go to the places where their friends are. They do the degree.
Yeah.
Something must have changed.
The change was in the degree. So I did the 4-year degree with the sandwich placement in between.
Yep.
Again, didn't know what I was applying for. I just applied for it, and so I didn't realise that you're going to have to actually look for a role and interview, etc. Look, I applied, and how I did it, I landed in a role with IBM, and it wasn't a technical role. It was working with the business development and financial services kind of marketing area.
Yeah.
And I had the best time of my life. Like, I felt that's what I missed probably from the uni experience. I experienced it then. I met people from everywhere.
Yeah.
We were all in it together. There's like 300 of us scattered across different locations.
Wow. So this was the first job?
That was my first job.
First job. Was it in South Bank?
Yeah.
Amazing. So what year was this, do you reckon?
Oh, God, it would have been in 2004, I think.
So this is like...
No, 3... Yeah,
this is like pre-2008, everything going wrong. Like, the world's in a pretty good place from a technology perspective. Everything's going up and to the right. Like, I can imagine that was a lot of fun.
It's brilliant. Honestly, I had the best time of my life that year. It was so good. And I enjoyed everybody I worked with.
Yeah.
Again, I made a couple of friends that I'm still in touch with now, back from way back then. So for me, that's what really opened my eyes of there's actually potential here. And that's when I started to see female leaders in kind of senior positions, Asian leaders.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know what? I don't know what I want to do, but this sounds cool. And at the time, IBM bought PwC's business consulting arm, etc. So this concept of consultant seemed quite cool, right? Like whatever that was. So anyway, went back to uni, finished off uni. And
I bet when you went back to uni, you were like, this is rubbish.
That last year was the best year ever.
Really?
I tell you why. One of the lecturer that I got assigned, or the professor that I got assigned for my final year project, I love her, and she was so inspirational. She really pushed me to think about things, and it's weird how I've ended up in payments, but my final year project was, how do I take the spirit of design, which I love doing, into information systems, which is nothing that doesn't really excite me, but how do I bring the two worlds together? So back then, chip and pin was being launched, and it was this big thing, right? So I did usability of the chip and pin devices for older adults and disabled people. So that's what I focused on, and I did my research on it. You had to do these great poster presentations, create prototypes, things that I do now, right? But you don't click on then, right?
That's such an amazing thing to have somebody who tied things together for you, because I think that feels like up until now that's what's been missing, is like passion and purpose coming together. Yeah,
and she like, I always remember her fondly, right? She was brilliant. And also they split you up into groups of 3 or 4 of you, so that we're in with the same kind of professor. So we were all having a good laugh together, and it was more of this, you go away from the crowds of the hundreds of you to just this focused group. So look, I did that. I graduated with a degree, but whilst I was, I think, 2 months into my final year, I'd applied for a grad scheme, Hewlett Packard, and
So tech is going to be a thing, right? You've done an information systems degree. Like,
I didn't. The thing is, though, I applied for Hewlett Packard because I thought, do you know what, the role sounded good. It was around a consultancy role, like I talked about. It's the first time they opened the grad scheme after a while. So, look, I went through the process. I used all of my final year stuff for part of my assessment centre. I took my poster. I took my prop.
Yeah, nice.
I smashed it, right?
Yeah, of course.
I took a little, I did all that preparation. So, like, I'm better than just turning up to an interview. I'm going to come up with a lot more than that. So I really remember that day, and I really enjoyed it. I walked away, like, really excited.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't get it, I know I smashed it in terms of doing my best.
Yeah, I did my best, yeah.
I got the role 2 months in, so I knew I was graduating. Providing I get at least a 2-1, I've got a job.
Amazing.
So uni finished around May time, and even then, I didn't decide to take time off. So a friend of me got me a job at Abbey
Yeah.
or Santander, it's now called.
Yeah.
So I just did that for a period whilst I started my grad
You
scheme.
can't help it, can you?
But I just think it's that bit of there's always growth, learning, doing stuff. I didn't want to just sit around. In hindsight, if I had time again, I would have gone traveling.
Yeah.
But I fixed that later on in life.
Gotcha.
But that's how I kind of ended up in the world of work. Sorry, not world.
Yeah. So you've gone to Hewlett Packard, and clearly, like there to here is a massive leap. Like you've jumped around industries though a little bit.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like the early part of your career. Like how did it all pan out?
So consulting, how it works is, there's projects to work on. You're at a consulting grade or a grade at an associate level.
Yeah.
They need an associate, and you're going because it's a billable project, right?
So you were in the consulting part of Hewlett Packard.
So not in the tech. So, was
Fine.
in technology consulting.
Yeah.
But my roles weren't very technical. They were more business analysis, project management, service type of
So
roles.
this is someone coming to a business coming to Hewlett Packard and saying, we have an issue.
Yeah.
We would like you to work out what that issue is and help us fix it.
Tender for projects. Then they put a project team on. That was there. So
you're travelling around a bit as well.
Yeah.
Just
So-
in the UK?
Just in the UK.
Cool. But even that's exciting enough out of uni. Like, I'll
It
go
was.
to Birmingham would probably be fun when you're doing that.
Yeah, it was. None of my projects were ever in London.
Okay.
So it was quite interesting because I did one in Manchester.
Yeah.
Got to work on really cool brands, change from one thing to
Yeah.
another. Your role changes. So that ability to be that chameleon, going into different organizations and learning very fast got instilled in me very, very quickly.
I'm sure.
Like you've got to, organization is paying for your value. So you've got to turn up and provide value on day one, not just...
not just... when was the first time you got it wrong? So because you went to your Hewlett Packard interview with your prototype and your poster and everything else. When was the first time you got it wrong? When was the first time you messed up? Yeah. Like with the first meeting or the first project? It's always fascinating to understand.
Yeah. So...
Or have you never, which fair enough.
I have. Like, you get things wrong. I think that's a good question to ask. I think I would probably say I loved working for Hewlett Packard. I loved working in that environment of change.
Yeah.
But what I realised is I didn't want somebody dictating to me which direction or which area I'm going to go and live in for a period of time.
Yeah.
I missed the flexibility of life.
Yeah.
Consulting for me worked for a year. After that, living out of a suitcase became a bit draining.
Yeah, of course.
I missed the connections. I missed the ability to do things that I wanted to do. And it felt like work was taking over a bit of life.
Do you feel like your performance was impacted by that?
Yeah, I think so. Towards the end, it just started to lose a little bit of me.
Yeah, you need to have a love for it as well.
Yeah, and I love the people. One of my best mates is from HP. We two of them.
Oh wow.
He's best man at my wedding, etc. So we created tight bonds.
Yeah.
And then just something happened, and enough is enough.
So you're in your early 20s there, right?
Yeah.
So you've got some experience. You've got the Staples crew, you've got the IBM crew, you've got the Hewlett Packard crew. Like, how do you then think about what's next? Was there like somebody who you admired and respected that you built a connection with that you asked for help, or did you just go it alone and try and find a new job?
At this point, there was no network really other than HP and IBM, whoever I had.
Yeah.
I did have my manager at IBM. I used to stay in touch with her, so it was to test things with her, ask her questions. But in the end, it was finding something that worked for me.
Yeah, of course.
So I had a couple of roles, couple of interviews. I nailed all three of them.
Yeah.
And I picked, because I said, staying true to myself.
Yeah.
I hated the traveling. I didn't hate traveling. I hated the not being able to direct.
Yeah.
Where
You were being
I'm
told
going
where
to
to
be.
travel. Yeah, exactly.
So I picked the closest location to home at the time, which was Kensal Green, which was Visa in Paddington. So that's my start of my payments career.
There you go.
So I joined as what they called an implementation consultant. So my first job was to implement cards for banks in Europe, like help them make to roll out cards. So we'd make that happen on the Visa platforms, and also the acquiring kind of acceptance side of the business, so that the banks can take payments for their merchants, etc.
So this is European travel now? Was there European travel in this job?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Visa Europe was headquartered in London, so a lot of stuff was
come to us.
come to us, right? But I got to work with like cultures across
that's so different, isn't it?
kind of geographies, etc. And then also, look, the team in Europe was so diverse. Like on my floor, we had like every European language you can think of. Somebody was speaking, so there's a nice buzz around it.
Do you think this was? I always ask this question: is this the job where you got your business card and you saw Visa and you were like, yeah?
I got a business card and it was just... No, actually, I got my business card at HP.
Yeah. Do you think that when you saw that, you were like, come on? Because I think I always reference when I joined eBay.
Yeah.
Like, that was my thing when I saw the business card. I thought, do you know what? Like, I'm on the way here.
Do you know what? It wasn't the business card at HP. It was the fact that I'm a grad. I've got an American Express corporate card.
The corporate card.
A business card. I got a mobile phone, a laptop, and I got a company car.
Oh, so by the time at Visa, you're like, this is amateur stuff.
But we didn't have much of that at Visa because it didn't involve all of the travelling, etc.
So then how long were you at Visa?
I think I left in 2000. I think it was 2014 I left, and I think I started in 2007.
Wow, so 7 full years. So you joined as an implementation consultant?
Yeah.
So by the time you leave, what was your title?
So I worked as the transformation lead. So I worked on, so in between, I did roles in product, service, delivery, service management across a number of kind of platforms or products that Visa offered.
Yeah.
In the end, I worked on the transformation program that was looking at our processing business and how we kind of align it to more of a services culture, more product enablement culture, etc.
So many people, Visa, it seems to be a place where that defines a career. I was wondering, there's so many people that are like, they've passed through Visa, and when they arrived, they were one thing, and when they left, they were another.
Yeah, I feel really proud about my time there. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But all things come to an end at some point.
Yeah. So because 7 years in your second job is unique, and we've had guests on the pod that have been one company the whole way through. Right, pretty much, like Gus Tomlinson from GBG, absolute superstar. She's been there, like, wonderful. There's other people that have moved around, and that's also defined them. Like Emma Lindley has, gone here, there, and everywhere, and so is Pratap and all these other people. So, what prompted you to go? Actually, do you know what? I've been at Visa 7 years. I need to make a change.
Visa prompted it itself. So Visa Europe got sold back to Visa Inc.
Of course, yeah.
And as a result, there was an opportunity to look for something elsewhere or stay in the organisation. For me, what I realised is high-performing teams, people you work with, all of that is really important. Yeah. And when I left Visa, the people I really enjoyed working with, the leaders that I looked up to at the time, etc., were all moving on to pastures new, right?
Gotcha.
So I thought, it's now or never. I just got married. Like my fiance at the time, girlfriend before that, etc. We just got married in 2013. And I thought, it's now or never. So I thought, I've always wanted to... I really enjoyed consulting. Remember, I didn't say I didn't enjoy consulting or the change. It was on my terms.
Yeah, fine.
So I decided I'm going to try it independently. And that's when I was like, I'm going to lose the shackles a little bit. Yeah. And I've got nothing to lose and give it a go. So I thought, start with payments first. So I got my first contract with WellPay through the network, because the network is so important. So these are my ex-colleagues from Visa that helped me secure my first contract.
Wow. That's a big thing.
It was scary.
To go from at the end of the month the salary comes in.
Yeah.
And at the end of the next month the salary.
Yeah.
Moving away from that's a big
it's really
thing.
scary, yeah. And it's like when does the next paycheck come, etc. But what that allows you to do is focus on your value and outcome. You really start to get your mindset in a space where it's about the value and outcome you create. Mm-hmm. And so it started off with WellPay. Then I got I did something with an insurance company in between. So I had loads of contracts in between. Some were 3 months, some 2.5 years.
Wow.
So depending on the project that was at hand, some are product driven, some are change driven, some are people driven. Right, so a variety of stuff.
Did you do any that you didn't like?
Because
there's a thing about paying the bills now. Because you followed your passion to do it, but there's also a thing of I might need to take some stuff that doesn't quite fit the mold for me.
I think like what happens is you get to the end of a contract and you got the opportunity to look at what's out there, and it depends on how the market's performing, etc.
Yeah.
So I don't say I regret any.
Yeah, good.
It's just I prefer some more than others. So
this is shaping you, right?
it is like contracting led me to work for Maersk, for example, a transport and logistics company, the biggest in the world, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that I would ever end up from payments in there, right? Yeah, not what I expected. And it's through my network, an amazing couple of big sponsors of mine from a career and life perspective helped me kind of secure that.
How important do you think having those people in your career are? Because I know that there's some young people that listen to this that I try and find themes that are really important. Yeah. And having people that you can look up to and give advice is just number one, isn't it?
100%, right? Like you often hear that you look up to your grandparents or people that have scars or have experienced stuff, and you ask them for advice. Why is it different for work?
No different at all.
Right? So I think it's that finding those people you can kind of connect with.
Yeah.
So look, I got to do that. Then I got to work in and out of Copenhagen. So it was quite exciting. Amazing. Then I got a role in, prior to that, I got to go to Dubai to work for Emirates on a passenger services transformation.
It's so good compared to just staying at Visa, and this is no disrespect to Visa at all, because you could have stayed at Visa another 7 years and blown the doors off and it'd been brilliant. But the difference of who you are today for having made that choice must be enormous.
I thank Visa, because if that transition that they weren't going through, I don't think I would have made the bold move. The reason why is my career was on an upward trajectory. I had been doing well. Every 2 to 3 years I was making different choices, changes, like compensation wise I was doing okay, career elevation wise I was learning, that growth mindset was there. But had they not decided to do the change, I would probably have not been courageous enough to make that change.
It's good you know that. So across Maersk and Emirates and everywhere else, how did it finish? What was the last role?
So I had the last role was exotic. It was 3 in Maidenhead. I really enjoyed
back
it.
Down to earth with a bump, you're in Maidenhead.
I know. I really enjoyed it, but COVID hit, right? So everybody had to make tough choices, so my contract ended. We were in the... So by this time, my wife and I would probably been married about 7 years. We're now not in Kensal Green, we're in Edgware. We've got our flat. We were in the midst of a property exchange and COVID freaking hit. And we're like, whoa, nobody knows how you're going to actually exchange. The people we're buying from were vulnerable, so they couldn't just move. So it was quite a scary moment because... if we didn't sell the flat, we probably would have lost the buyer. Our chain would have fallen through. So I was like, let's just take the risk. Rang my sister up, said, can we come and stay with you? This is before lockdown hit, etc. We knew it was coming, but she said, yep. I said, we need to sell this flat. I've got a good feeling that the house will come through. My wife was really supportive. Both of us were like, we're just going to make this happen. So we moved in with my sister.
Right, so your contract at 3's finished, and you've moved in with your sister. And
the house
we don't know what's happening in the world, and you're not sure about the house. That's a sticky moment.
It was. But look, we got through, and I did that was the first time I had not been in contract.
That's what I was about to ask you.
So what is it, from 2000, and when did I say I left Visa? Around 7 or 8 till... 2014 I left, 7 I started. So from 14 till 2020, I think it was.
6 years.
I'd not been out of work.
Wow.
So it's a bit interesting, but it was a strange thing,
I'd
because
say.
we were like, I was constantly kept busy because there was all of
Yeah.
us in the house. And I had loads of interviews. I secured 3 roles.
You decided to go permanent at this point?
No.
Oh, fine.
The permanent contract thing has never been a thing in my head in
Just
terms
whatever.
of it is whatever,
Yeah,
right? It's
fine.
more about what can I learn from that position.
So three contracts finished. Are you looking at things differently because of the way the world
No,
is? Or
so
is it
I
just
had 2 contracts and 1 permanent role.
fine?
And I thought, right, so what happens? I've got 3 contracts, and then one of them was this company called, like, we all know it now as TikTok. And I was like, oh,
But then
wow.
we didn't. Really. It was starting to happen.
It was starting to happen. I suppose for me, why I knew it is because of my nieces and
Yeah.
stuff. But initially when they contacted me, it was for a role for a company called ByteDance, which
That's the
is
parent
owned
company,
by
right?
TikTok. So there's me trying to work out, what is this?
Yeah.
And eventually through the interview process, etc., I was like, it's for TikTok. This
Yeah.
role's for TikTok. Anyway, I took it. It was a bit vague.
What was the title of it at the start?
I think it was like a change lead or something along them
Right.
lines. Look,
Why did you take it if you didn't know what it was?
do you know what? Because I thought, when are you ever going to get to work on something that's like this in its infancy
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, look at Facebook, look at all these others.
I thought I'd give it a go. Like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, right? I'll go
love
back
it.
in and get a contract.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a roller coaster of fun,
Yeah.
but really hard work.
Because you're locked down as well.
You're locked down, but I also think about the growth that the organisation went through.
Bananas. Do you have, off the top of your head, what that growth was in that time?
I don't. I remember the employees, it was hundreds, and ended up with, when I left 2 years later, like thousands and thousands across
Yeah.
different European and global locations, right? So I can't remember the user base, but it blew up, right?
Yeah,
like I'm sure you would have done the Jason Derulo Savage Love. I can imagine you, Liam,
There
doing
was
that.
so many things. Like,
so-
I remember it just going crazy. So and that was contract, right?
No, that was
so
perm.
you're permanent. So all of a sudden you're permanent at a exploding social media company in a pandemic. That's different to hopping over to Maersk to do some change consulting, isn't it?
I think, like, if you think about it, it depends on what drove you to contracting, or some people go to contracting and consulting for the money.
Yeah.
For me, it was the ability of variety and change and learning and
Yeah.
growth mindset. I'm a strong believer that if you look for things where you can learn and grow, money, hierarchy, all that will come.
It follows.
It will follow you.
100%.
So, look, I joined. It was fun, so good.
Yeah.
But Asha fell pregnant at the same time. Not but, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
She's
And
Asha fell pregnant. And then mine was born while we were while I was working at TikTok.
Wow.
And I loved working at TikTok, but I am a dad,
Yeah.
first time dad.
Yeah.
And look, when you work in a growth organization and a startup and are scaling at that level, there are lots of pressures in terms of making sure you're able to be the dad, but also deliver.
Of course.
And it's a global organization, right? Like, my parent team was based in China.
So you're around the clock.
Yeah, you're around the clock, and I did stuff with the US, etc. So it was demanding, but I really enjoyed it, and I never left TikTok because of that.
Right.
So it was, I had an amazing time. I left TikTok on a high, by the way. I remember 3 weeks before I left, I got nominated for one of the TikTok awards. There was
Yeah,
this
you did.
really, really cool top of the talks ceremony, which is like top of the pops.
I love that.
Like, it was brilliant. I got I didn't win the award, but the fact is, I left on a high.
Yeah, of course.
And to me, meant that, I did what I could in my time there.
yeah.
Um,
Amazing. So what made you so you went straight to Barclays from TikTok?
So I wasn't looking to leave.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
important to say. So we now talked about my boss that's been on your podcasts. So Harshan and I, we talk about sponsors and people that you keep in touch with. So I think I worked with Harshan in 2013-14
At Visa.
but we've never worked together ever since then. But we always talked, checked in on career. I think networking and authentic networking
100%.
and sponsorship is
Big
good.
difference.
There's a big difference, right? There's I worked with you, I need a favor 10 years down the line versus we keep in touch. And then Harshan had just moved to Barclays, I think 6 or 7 months before. And then she just contacted me and said, look, Alps, I've got this role. Would you be interested? I had to go through, like everybody, a fair and transparent process in the interview. I had like nth bouts of interviews. It was really good because I think that allows you to learn about where you're actually going.
True.
Right?
It's an interview on both sides.
Yeah. So the initial role was to work on more around the design proposition, CX, how you position the gateways, etc., and how we need to design for customer needs, etc. So it was head of product and propositions, or product solutions and experience for the gateway. So I moved to Barclaycard Payments.
And so when was this? Pandemic was done?
Yeah. So it
fine.
was just, we're coming out of the tail end of the pandemic, I think. No, actually it was 6 months after everybody probably started returning into work, etc. So it was January 23. Yes, I've been at 2.5 years now. So 22. Sorry, So.
Wow, it's such a fascinating journey that you've taken, and it's all completely unintentional. And the thing I love most, sat here listening to it, is that all you've done is trusted your gut and wanted to do stuff that you know makes you happy, and that you're good at. And I think that's such a special way of doing things, because so many people chase, like you say, they chase money and they chase job titles and they chase all these other things, but actually you've just gone completely the other way and said, I'm just going to do stuff I enjoy. And all of that stuff has followed.
And I didn't think I'll end back up in payments because at the end of the day, the choices I've made is around a challenge or growth mindset, and where I can learn something new or different. I've gone into multiple industries. I've learned about different technologies, different ways of operating, different products, different services. So it's like almost coming back into the world of payments. It is quite daunting because the world had moved on. Payments, it's a fast-paced organization. But one thing we've got all in common is we're all consumers, right? We all know what we want to do. But there's technical language in between. There's systems in between. But we all know how we want to be paying for goods and services, right? So I was just like, let's just go with it. I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to, refresh my payments knowledge. But what I do know is I'm very good at design. I'm very good at understanding customer needs. I'm very good at customer experience. I'm very good at getting things done. So I was just like, let me take my USPs and just go all in with it.
Absolutely love it. And you've taken all these different industries experience and you've stuck that together. Mate, thank you so much for that. That has been fascinating.
And that concludes another episode of Not What I Expected. I hope you loved that as much as I loved recording it. If you like it, let us know. If you don't, tell us how you think it could be better. Thanks, and see you again.